Look at yourself for a moment. Not the version you post, the real one. The one dragging himself through the week, measuring his life in deadlines, caffeine, and exhaustion. The one who feels busy all the time, yet strangely unchanged. Same income, same leverage, same position, different year. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet question keeps knocking. How am I working this hard and still standing in the same place? You were raised on a beautiful lie, a comforting lie, a lie dressed up as virtue. That if you grind long enough, sacrifice hard enough, keep your head down and your mouth shut, the world will eventually notice and reward you. But the world doesn't work like a meritocratic fairy tale. It never did. Hard work by itself is not a ladder. It's a treadmill. And the cruel part is this. The faster you run, the more convinced you become that stopping would mean failure. Here's the first truth that pierces the mind. History has never crowned the most exhausted men. It crowned the ones who directed exhaustion. The hardest workers in every civilization weren't kings. They were builders, carriers, laborers, the ones whose backs bent so others could stand tall. The pyramids were not built by pharaohs. They were built by people who believed effort would one day turn into power. It didn't. It turned into stone. And right now, if you're honest, you feel it. That low-grade anger. That sense that something is off. That the game feels tilted. It is. But the tilt isn't accidental. It's structural. Because a tired man is a manageable man. An exhausted mind doesn't question hierarchy. It doesn't analyze incentives. It doesn't redesign the board. It just survives the next hour. And survival is the lowest form of existence. This is where most people misunderstand power. They think power comes from friction, from pushing harder, bleeding more, proving dedication through pain. But power doesn't come from friction. It comes from leverage, from positioning, from distance, from the ability to choose when and how energy is spent. The man who must work constantly has no power. The man who can afford to pause does. Think about the people you've seen at the top, truly at the top. Are they frantic? Are they scrambling? Are they drowning in tasks? No. They move slowly. They speak selectively. They guard their time like territory. That calm you mistake for confidence is something colder. Control. Leisure is not laziness. Leisure is stored force. It is a loaded weapon disguised as stillness. Now here's the uncomfortable part. You've been taught to feel guilty for stillness, to equate rest with weakness, to believe that if you're not producing, you're failing. That guilt isn't natural, it's installed. Because a man who never stops moving never stops to think. And a man who never thinks never escapes his assigned role. Busyness is not ambition, it's anesthesia. It numbs the question that could change everything. Is this life actually designed for me to win? When you're grinding, your head is down. You see the dirt. You don't see the terrain. You don't see the knife behind you or the door slightly open to your left. Hustle culture glorifies this blindness. It turns self-exploitation into heroism. It convinces gladiators that dying in the arena is noble, so the emperor never runs out of entertainment. Hard work without leverage is not virtue. It's slow erosion. If all your effort goes into maintenance, keeping your head above water, you're not building a future. You're being harvested. And the system loves people like that. People who equate suffering with worth. People who believe pain is proof they're on the right path. But pain is not a credential. You cannot deposit burnout. You cannot trade exhaustion for sovereignty. Ask yourself something that cuts deeper than motivation ever will. Why does doing nothing feel wrong to you? Why does a quiet afternoon feel like theft? Because somewhere along the way, you were taught that your energy does not belong to you, that it is a public resource, that pouring it endlessly into work, relationships, obligations without return is moral. That belief is not noble. It is convenient. Convenient for anyone who benefits from your output. This is the difference between the beast of burden and the architect. The beast is admired for strength, reliability, endurance. The architect is feared for vision, timing, and restraint. Most men die admired in powerless hands calloused, backs bent, waiting for recognition that never arrives. The architect dies having moved pieces he never touched. There is another path, a colder one, a path where you do less but command more, where you stop mistaking visibility for value and effort for influence. But walking it requires a psychological execution. You must kill the part of you that begs to be seen as hard-working. You must be willing to look lazy to those who don't understand leverage, so you can become dangerous to those who do. This is not about quitting. It's about awakening, about reclaiming your energy from places that drain it and redirecting it toward positions that multiply it. The switch isn't in your schedule. It's in your identity. And once it flips, you will never look at a hard day's work the same way again. Let's dissect what you've been told about energy, because this is where the trap tightens. Society trained you to believe your energy is cheap, renewable, something you're supposed to spend freely on your job, your obligations, your side hustles, other people's emergencies. Leave it all on the field, they say. But no one ever asks the real question, who owns the field? When you leave everything on the field, you walk away empty. No clarity, no strategic distance, no surplus force. You return home drained, scrolling, numbing, sleeping just enough to repeat the cycle. And that emptiness isn't a personal failure, it's a feature. A tired man does not revolt. A tired man does not audit the system. He doesn't question interest rates, legal structures, or why the hierarchy always seems fixed. He's too busy surviving the week. Power has always understood this. The ruler who exhausts himself loses judgment. He becomes reactive, predictable, and predictability is weakness. The ones who truly dominate conserve. They hold reserves. They create space between stimulus and response. That space is where strategy is born. Think about calm for a moment. Real calm. Not relaxation, but unhurried presence. That's not softness. That's stored aggression. A coiled spring. When someone moves slowly in a world addicted to urgency, they aren't behind, they're above. They see more because they're not drowning in motion. Now look at hustle culture through that lens. It parades exhaustion as honor. It glamorizes sleep deprivation, overwork, burnout, as if these are badges of seriousness. But this culture doesn't exist to elevate you. It exists to normalize self-destruction. It keeps the machine fed while convincing the parts they are noble for wearing down. Here's the brutal equation most people never solve. Effort does not equal outcome. Direction does. You can pour 100 units of effort into the wrong vector and get nothing. Or you can apply a single unit, one decision, one connection, one move, and shift an entire trajectory. That separation between effort and result is leverage. And leverage terrifies systems built on labor. Ask yourself why guilt follows you into stillness, why silence makes you uneasy, why rest feels like disobedience. Because you were conditioned to believe that if it hurts, it must be virtuous, that sacrifice equals worth, that if you are suffering, you are good. This is not strength. This is moral programming designed for those without power. In older civilizations, labor was not a status symbol. It was necessity. Those with influence didn't brag about hours. They bragged about access, about patronage, about whose signature moved resources and whose silence delayed wars. Today, we've inverted it. People compete over who is most depleted, who woke up earliest, who slept least, who nearly collapsed but pushed through. From a strategic perspective, this is insanity. You are treating your mind and body, the only instruments you truly own, like disposable tools, as if they were rented, as if there's no cost to abuse. But you cannot dominate a system with a broken instrument, and you cannot think clearly when your nervous system is constantly on fire. Here's a truth that cuts through fantasy. The system loves martyrs. It feeds on them. The employee who stays late without leverage. The partner who gives endlessly without boundaries. The one who absorbs chaos so others can remain comfortable. These people are not rewarded. They are consumed, replaced, forgotten. You are not irreplaceable. If you vanished tomorrow, the machinery would not pause to mourn. The position would be reposted before your absence was processed. This is not cruelty. This is reality. And once you see it, loyalty based on self-destruction becomes absurd. This leads to a darker lesson most never learn. Competence can be a trap. If you are too good at the wrong tasks, you will be imprisoned by them. When you demonstrate that you can carry weight, the world hands you more weight. When you show you can tolerate dysfunction, dysfunction seeks you out. The reward for being capable without boundaries is exploitation. That's why mastering everything is foolish. There are skills you should never perfect. There are fires you should never volunteer to extinguish. Because once you become the solution, you become permanent infrastructure. If you're the one who always fixes things, you'll never be allowed to stop fixing them. Strategic power requires selective incompetence. You must reserve excellence for areas that create leverage. Decisions, positioning, narrative, relationships that multiply reach. Let others compete to be the fastest responder, the most agreeable helper, the most reliable mule. Tools are praised, but tools are also used until they break. You want to be the hand that holds the tool, not the tool itself. This shift will feel like arrogance at first. You will hesitate. You'll hear an inner voice say, "Who do you think you are?" That voice is not humility. It is conditioning. If you value your time at 0, the world will price it accordingly. If you treat your energy as sacred, others will feel the boundary even if you never speak it. Watch what happens in a room when a new burden is introduced. Notice who rushes to accept it. The anxious, the approval-seeking, the ones who need to be seen as good. Power often belongs to the silent observer. Silence is not passivity. It is refusal without confrontation. This is where the old analogy emerges. The lion and the fox. The lion roars. It charges. It bleeds. It relies on force. The fox watches. It maps traps. It never fights battles it cannot win. Hard work is the lion. Leverage is the fox, and the world you live in is filled with traps, not open fields. If you keep charging, you will keep getting caught. The shift begins when you stop worshiping effort and start studying outcomes. When you stop asking, "How can I do more?" and start asking, "What actually moves the board?" Here's where the illusion finally collapses. You were taught that output equals reward, that if you produce enough hours, enough sweat, enough visible effort, the world will balance the scales. But the world does not run on fairness. It runs on leverage, and leverage is the separation of effort from result. This is the scam hiding in plain sight. my mind. You can pour everything you have into a direction that leads nowhere and call it discipline. Or you can apply a single, well-placed action and change your entire position. One conversation, one decision, one signature, one connection, one shift in narrative. That single move can outweigh years of grinding. That's not luck. That's architecture. Leverage is dangerous because it exposes a truth most people don't want to face. If effort alone created success, the most exhausted people would be the most powerful. They're not. The ones at the top are often the least physically strained, not because they're lazy, but because they are no longer paid for pain. They are paid for positioning. As long as your income is tied directly to your physical presence, your time, your stress, your suffering, you are owned. You are renting yourself out, and the moment you stop showing up, the money stops flowing. That is not freedom. That is dependency with a paycheck. This is why so many people are addicted to being busy. Because busyness protects them from a more terrifying confrontation. When you slow down, you have to think. When you think, you have to feel. And when you feel, you're forced to ask a question most people spend their lives avoiding. Is this all there is? Motion becomes a drug. Meeting, emails, tasks, problems. Constant stimulation keeps the mind from seeing the cage. If you're running at full speed, you don't notice you're moving in circles. And the culture rewards this addiction. We brag about stress. We wear exhaustion like proof of importance. I'm slammed. I'm drowning. I'm barely keeping up. Beneath those complaints is pride, a signal to the tribe. I matter because I'm needed. But being needed is not power. The janitor is needed. The server is needed. The driver is needed. If they disappear, things break, but they are still replaceable. Power belongs to the one who can leave and have the system continue, or even improve. Power is optionality. This is why stillness terrifies people, because stillness strips away the performance. And in that quiet, you begin to see patterns. Who actually decides things? Where money really flows? Which actions create momentum, and which merely maintain appearances? Stillness turns laborers into observers, observers into strategists. History proves this again and again. When Machiavelli was exiled, stripped of office, cut off from power, he did not hustle. He did not chase relevance. He withdrew. He studied. He read history. He thought. And from that stillness, he wrote a book that has influenced rulers for centuries. His legacy was not born from frantic activity. It was born from clarity. You are burying your own clarity under noise. You are suffocating insight with tasks. Your to-do list feels productive, but it may be the very thing killing your ability to design a future. Activity feels safe. Strategy feels empty at first. But emptiness is where structure is built. This is why do less sounds offensive, because it threatens an identity built on struggle. But do less does not mean do nothing. It means eliminate everything that does not multiply. A sniper fires once. A machine gun empties itself. Who is feared? Precision always outperforms volume. Picture a skyscraper. Hundreds of men hang from steel beams. They weld. They sweat. They risk their lives. They are working hard. Somewhere else, maybe miles away, one man studies a blueprint. He holds a pen. He is not bleeding. He is not tired. When the building is finished, the workers are dismissed. The architect's name remains. The lie of hard work says if you carry enough bricks, you'll eventually design the building. You won't. These are different roles, different mindsets, different games. To become the architect, you must stop identifying with labor. Stop taking pride in how heavy the brick is. Start asking why the building exists at all. Most people never do. They live by default. Scripts handed down by parents, teachers, culture, school, job, mortgage, retirement, death. That is not a blueprint. That is a conveyor belt. The architect questions the structure. He manipulates materials. He understands that people, events, emotions, narratives, these are all building blocks. A strategist does not complain that bricks are heavy. He finds a crane. Technology, capital, network, knowledge. These are cranes. Leverage tools that move what brute force cannot. The moment you find one, your entire relationship with effort changes. Here's the dark truth that seals it. People do not value what is given freely. If you are always available, always helpful, always present, your value inflates into nothing. Scarcity creates gravity. When there is too much of you, you become cheap. When access to you is controlled, you become significant. Withholding is not cruelty, it is calibration. Withhold your availability. Withhold your immediate reaction. Withhold your full effort until the moment it creates maximum impact. When someone who is always present suddenly steps back, the environment reacts. Attention snaps. Value is reassessed. Power shifts. Hard work makes you invisible. Strategic absence makes you unforgettable. This is the moment where effort stops being your identity and becomes a tool you pick up and put down at will. Here is the chain most men never break. Pride. Pride in suffering. Pride in endurance. Pride in being the one who can handle it. You look at those who live easier lives and you tell yourself they're soft, lucky, undeserving. That judgment feels empowering, but it's a sedative. It protects your ego from a harder truth. They are winning, and you are not. Your moral superiority has become a consolation prize. The elite do not care that you think you are better than them. They are not offended by your judgment. They are not even aware of it. While you take pride in your calluses, they are acquiring assets. While you praise struggle, they are buying time. Drop the judgment. It is heavy. It slows you down. And most importantly, it keeps you loyal to a losing strategy. Admit something you were trained to deny. You want ease. You want control. You want resources without destroying your body and your mind to get them. There is no shame in this. Nature itself follows the path of least resistance. Water flows downhill. Electricity chooses the shortest circuit. Why are you trying to be the exception to physics? The world does not reward blind obedience. It rewards timing, positioning, and cunning. You can scream about fairness while sinking, or you can accept the rules of the terrain and start moving intelligently. The scoreboard does not track effort. It tracks outcomes. But escape is not dramatic. It is not rebellion in the open. Quitting impulsively is not strategy. It's the lion charging again. The real exit is quieter, colder. You do not announce it. You do not explain it. You shift allegiance. Right now, most men are loyal to the system, to the employer, to the image of the good worker. That loyalty is emotional, not rational. The shift begins when your loyalty moves inward. You become a double agent. You still show up. You still perform, but you are no longer invested. You are undercover. You do what is required to maintain cover and nothing more. You conserve energy. You observe dynamics. You study how power actually moves, where decisions are made, who influences whom, how money flows. Every day becomes reconnaissance. Every meeting becomes intelligence gathering. Your job stops being your identity and becomes a paid education. If you are just working, you are missing the opportunity. You should be studying the blueprint. How does this organization acquire customers? How does it frame value? How does it manipulate perception? Where are the choke points? Where is leverage hiding in plain sight? And in the energy you reclaim by no longer volunteering for exhaustion, you build quietly an investment, a skill with asymmetric upside, a network that compounds. You construct the ladder in the dark. No announcements, no motivational speeches. When the ladder is ready, you do not ask permission to leave. You simply climb over the wall. This is the Machiavellian transition. No drama, no emotional farewell, just a silent shift from servant to sovereign. This requires patience, and patience is what the hard work scam feeds on. It gives you small, frequent rewards, paychecks, praise, a sense of being needed, to keep you addicted to immediacy. The strategist delays gratification. He is willing to look stagnant in the short term to dominate in the long term. Can you tolerate the silence, the lack of applause, the feeling that nothing is happening while you build beneath the surface? Most cannot. They return to the cage because the cage is warm. The cage has structure. The cage gives feedback. The wild is empty. The wild is cold. But the wild is free. You spent your life aiming at the wrong target. You aimed at success through effort. The real target is sovereignty through leverage. Hard work is not evil. It is a tool, a hammer. You use it when a nail must be driven, and then you put it down. Carrying the hammer everywhere doesn't make you productive. It makes you dangerous to yourself. The world is shifting faster than most people realize. Loyalty is obsolete. Machines outperform labor. AI outpaces effort. The ones who survive will not be the fastest typists or the strongest backs. They will be the clearest thinkers, the ones who can see systems without fear, distorting their vision, the ones who can direct energy instead of endlessly supplying it. You can feel the anger rising as you hear this. Good. Do not waste it on outrage. Do not vent it into noise. Refine it, cool it, turn it into fuel. Cold anger sharpens perception. Hot anger blinds it. You are no longer meant to be a beast of burden. You are meant to become the architect. But understand this. The moment you step back, the system will resist. It will call you lazy, ungrateful, arrogant. It will try to shame you back into motion. This is the final test. If you can stand in stillness without collapsing into guilt, something opens. Patterns appear. Paths reveal themselves. You see moves others cannot see because they are too busy sweating. Seeing the path is not the same as walking it. Walking it requires weapons not taught in school. Weapons hidden deliberately. Because if everyone had them, the pyramid would collapse. You are awake now. You see the strings. You see the puppet masters. What you do next decides whether this awareness becomes liberation or just another thought you bury under work. Awareness is dangerous, but it is not enough. Many people see the bars of the cage and still choose to stay inside because leaving requires a different kind of courage. Not the courage to work harder, but the courage to move differently. To stop seeking validation from the very system that profits from your obedience. The first move is subtle. You don't quit. You don't rebel. You detach. You stop emotionally investing in outcomes that do not belong to you. You still perform your role, but you no longer confuse performance with purpose. You become precise, efficient, minimal. You give exactly what is required to remain invisible and not an ounce more. This is what it means to go undercover. Your job becomes camouflage. Your paycheck becomes funding. Your workplace becomes a classroom. While others burn themselves out proving loyalty, you are studying leverage. You are mapping power. You are asking questions no one else is asking because they're too busy proving they care. Who actually makes decisions here? Who influences them? What creates revenue? What creates dependence? Where does value concentrate and where does it evaporate? These are not philosophical questions, they are practical. And the moment you start seeing answers, the illusion of hard work collapses completely. Most people think they are paid for effort. They are not. They are paid to remain predictable, to show up, to comply, to stay within the rhythm. The moment you stop over-delivering emotionally, you reclaim time. And time, when reclaimed, becomes a weapon. In that time, you build quietly, not loudly, not publicly. You don't announce goals. You don't seek applause. You construct leverage where no one is looking. An asset, a skill with asymmetric upside, a network that compounds instead of drains, something that does not require your constant physical presence to exist. You are no longer asking for raises. You are designing exits. You are no longer begging for recognition. You are positioning for ownership. This is where patience becomes rare and powerful. The hard work scam relies on impatience, on the need for immediate feedback, a paycheck every 2 weeks, a good job from someone who controls your time. The strategist breaks this addiction. He is willing to look stagnant in the short term to become untouchable in the long term. Most people fail here. The silence unnerves them. The lack of external validation makes them doubt themselves. They return to the cage because the cage gives structure. The cage gives noise. The cage tells them who they are. But the cage was never designed to elevate you. It was designed to contain you. Freedom feels empty before it feels powerful. Understand this. Hard work was never your enemy. Misplaced hard work was. Effort aimed at the wrong target becomes self-betrayal. Effort applied strategically becomes domination. The hammer is not the problem. Worshipping it is. The world is changing faster than most people can adapt. Stability is dissolving. Old contracts are burning. Loyalty is no longer rewarded. Automation and AI will outperform human labor without fatigue or complaint. The future does not belong to those who can work harder. It belongs to those who can think clearer, those who can see systems instead of stories, incentives instead of ideals, leverage instead of effort. You now see the scam. You see why exhaustion is praised, why stillness is shamed, why rest feels like guilt. The anger you felt at the beginning of this journey, do not release it, but do not let it boil. Refine it into something colder, calculated, precise. Cold anger fuels study. Cold anger fuels patience. Cold anger builds empires while hot anger burns bridges. From this point forward, you are no longer a beast of burden. You are no longer here to carry weight so others can rise. You are here to design outcomes, to choose where your energy goes and where it does not. But a warning is necessary. The moment you stop grinding, the moment you step back to think, the system will push back. It will whisper guilt. It will accuse you of laziness. It will try to pull you back into motion because motion is how it controls you. This pressure is not random. It is a test. If you can withstand it, if you can remain still while others scramble, you will see what they cannot. Openings, angles, paths to sovereignty that were invisible when your head was down. Seeing the path does not mean you are safe. Walking it requires discipline, silence, restraint. Weapons not taught openly because they dismantle hierarchies. Not everyone is meant to walk this road. That is why it remains narrow. If this awakens something in you, understand this. What you've heard is only what can be said publicly. The most powerful truths are never broadcast. They are shared selectively. Hidden behind doors most people never knock on because they are too busy working. You now face a choice. Bury this insight under more effort, or act on it, quietly, ruthlessly, intelligently. Stop aiming at success through suffering. Aim at sovereignty through leverage. Put the hammer down. Lift your head. Look at the blueprint. The game has always been about control, and now, for the first time, you know how it's played. This is where the noise ends and the real work begins. Not the work of effort, but the work of alignment. From this moment forward, every hour you give must buy you freedom, not fatigue. Every move must increase leverage, not dependence. You are done proving your worth through exhaustion. You are done mistaking motion for progress. The world will keep demanding your energy, let it. You will decide when to pay and when to withhold. That choice alone separates servants from sovereigns. Remember this: power is never loud at the beginning. It is quiet, patient, and deliberate. And once it's built, it never asks for permission.